Hello, testing, yes. Good morning. Good morning to all of you for granting me the floor, especially. Many of you might remember me because I have spent years asking for protection and support from the EU for the ladies in white. And in addition to defending the ladies in white, I would like to also bring up the social situation of women in Cuba today. The Cuban government has changed its repression techniques against all people in society who question any social topic in Cuba. Their main objective was to isolate ladies in white from society. So what we did was last year we created a female network in Cuba so that we could bring on board all women in Cuba who had a grudge against the government. And we realized that all women in Cuba hold a great concern and they run a danger of gender violence, which happens not only in the private sphere but also in the public sphere. As you know, the Cuban government last year carried out a hypothetical constitutional or an alleged constitutional reform, which hasn't really changed anything on the ground. And there'll be a legislative change from 2020 to 2028 when 108 different laws will change, and none of them state that gender violence is actually a crime. So I'd like to share some data with you. So I come from Spain, and we've done a comparative study between Spain and Cuba. Officially, there 4.3 million adult women exist in Cuba, and in Spain we have 24 million adult women. And in Spain, between 2013 and 2018, 210 women were murdered within a domestic violence situation. In Cuba, there are no official figures, but for a population 1/5 the size, in the same period, we had 502 deaths. And this is, of course, without access to hospitals, legal aid, or official information. So within the framework of the agreement that Europe has with Cuba, we would really like to bring this topic to the fore. This is not a matter of social justice, or of allowing women to fully participate in public life. Women need to be allowed to say and think what they believe without fear of reprisals. They need to have institutional support because Cuba is a patriarchal society. Women in Cuba many of them depend on their husbands economically, and so their families don't support them in pressing charges when they need to. Now, this happens in every society, but we need to provide the means to fight against this problem. So I am here on behalf of women who suffer political violence, not only the ladies in white, also those who are speaking out against racism. They are kept at home. It almost becomes house arrest because they're not allowed to leave. I'm also defending women who defend their right to work, the right to access to information, who are fined because Law 370 says that when something is published on social networks which is not of social interest, then they are an adversary of the system, and these people can be fined. So whoever wants to have access to our report, since the Cuban government won't do it, we've prepared a 2020 action plan against gender violence. If they won't do it, we have to. We've always shown that we're willing to work with them. We've given a proposal for an open constitutional reform. They didn't want to hear of it. We've made economic proposals. They also didn't want to hear anything about it. And I'd really like us to talk about these topics. Thank you.